All good.
But good, good, good. Okay, well, I'm thrilled to have so many people here. I've been actually getting some great emails from prospective undergraduate students who are interested in the lab, which is really exciting. And we've got kind of a range of backgrounds. We've got some biomedical engineering students, some CS students, some psych students, and which is exactly what I like to see as someone in human-computer interaction. So I will get started. I've got some students, my PhD students, that will be helping me to give you guys this overview of the lab. So we are the SHINE lab, which stands for System Human Interaction with NIRS and EEG, which are brain measurement devices that you'll learn more about today. But so we mostly do non-invasive brain measurement, and we've got some pictures here from studies we've run in the lab, and some folks actually in the pictures that you'll meet today. And that's me on the left, just a couple of weeks ago piloting one of our experiments. So I'll get started, and we have our website address here that everyone is welcome to check out. It's pretty nicely updated. So I'll do a very quick introductions of the students that will be helping me to give the presentation today, and we'll go into more detail. You know, each of us kind of a little bit about us, but just quickly, yeah. So I'm Leanne Hirschfield, and we've got Trevor here. You want to say hi?
Yes, once I unmute. Hello, everyone. I'm Trevor. I looked a lot cleaner in that picture, but you know, time takes its toll.
Yeah. And I see Luca.
Hi, I'm Luca. Yeah.
And Lucas I see has the camera off, but we'll say hi quickly.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Lucas, third year PhD student in the SHINE lab.
Great, thanks guys. So anyways, you'll get to meet these guys more as we go. So the kind of plan for today is I'm going to talk for a bit about kind of the basic research we do in the lab, and also just talk a little bit about human-computer interaction, which is kind of my specialty, and it sits within computer science, but we actually touch upon a whole bunch of different disciplines, and we think the best work goes on at the fringes of the disciplines. So I'll talk a little bit more about kind of what that all means, and the research we do in the lab. And then the students are going to take you on a deeper dive into some of their projects and what they're working on. Then we'll talk about, we have a new NSF-funded institute, which is for student AI teaming. And it's actually a $20 million investment. It was the National Science Foundation just made several really large awards for pushing artificial intelligence research. And we're really, really proud that CU is one of the host institutions for this really ambitious AI institute. And I'll talk to you guys more about the work that I'm kind of co-leading within the institute. And we are certainly always looking for great PhD students, which is part of why you know, we have you guys joining today. So we'll tell you a little bit more you know, about the work going on in the institute, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the curriculum. And I'm part of the Institute for Cognitive Science, so we'll talk about different degree programs, and we have Brad Shrian, who can kind of help answer some questions, you know, if you guys have any at the end. And that's about it. But feel free, if anyone does want to interrupt as we're chatting, feel free to, but also you can hold questions till the end as well. But either is completely fine. Okay, so a bit about me, just to give you a bit of my background. So I grew up in central New York, kind of middle of nowhere, 4 hours from New York City, so very much open space. I attended a small liberal arts school in Clinton, New York, called Hamilton College, which really taught me, I would say, how to write and communicate well. But I also took some neuroscience courses, and I was a CS major there. I did my PhD at Tufts University near Boston, and I was focused, again, computer science, but also I got involved in human-computer interaction, which I'll tell you a little bit more about that kind of area. And now I'm an associate research professor here at ICS at CU. So, you know, and this is also when part of being in Boulder. You know, we're doing amazing research, and I'm working with some of the brightest students and the brightest colleagues and faculty around, which I love. But also when I'm not working, I also really love the perks that Boulder has to offer. And I have a fabulous family you see here, and we spend a lot of time skiing and out hiking, and we live really close to, we actually leave our house and go and are at the trails in 2 minutes, and it's a pretty amazing place to be when you also are wanting to raise a family. So this is what I'm doing when I'm not working. Okay, so my area is human-computer interaction. Background is computer science, but it's really important to note that human-computer interaction is this discipline that's concerned with the design and the evaluation of interactive computing systems and all of the phenomena surrounding them. So, for example, you know, we're interested in, you know, building new technologies, and you know, how, you know, does augmented reality work? How do people interact with robots? How do people, you know, social media right now with the current election season and such, and we're seeing, you know, misinformation. How do we, you know, how do people interact with social media? And there's all these really interesting phenomena that kind of occur when, you know, when new technologies and new platforms come out. And so HCI is very much at the blend of several disciplines. And it's really important, I think, to make a point for everyone to really understand that there are certain deep dives that any given student might take, but ultimately we want students that are pretty well-rounded. And computer science clearly is, well, you know, my home department, and we do a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence and signal processing, and a lot of computer science-y stuff, but also it's really important within my lab that there's a lot of psychology, a lot of sociology. We do a lot of design of interfaces and systems. So it's the blend of those areas, and it's really fun. I should say, I was going to add a picture from the lab, but I didn't get around to it. But it's really fun to sit in on our lab meetings, because we have neuroscientists and design engineers and psych students and people who do machine learning, and it's the whole blend, and that's where the really unique research occurs. So anyway, so I just really want to point that out, that we're looking for the well-rounded students. So our research blends, you know, several different areas, and so we definitely do a lot of machine learning or predictive modeling. I think Lucas will talk a bit about that in detail. We also look into biomedical engineering, so we have a lot of new brain measurement devices that are constantly coming out, and we're always kind of adapting to the newest technology and learning how to work with that data. We do a lot of cognitive science and social science as well. So, you know, psychology or sociology, these are all important areas. And so the main goal, what we do in our lab, is we measure your brain and your other physiology, so your breathing, and maybe we'll look at your eye tracking data, but ultimately we are trying to make a real-time prediction of someone's mental state. So it could be, we say social, cognitive, or emotional states. So it could be, are you frustrated right now? Are you overloaded? Do you have a high workload? Are you trusting the person you're interacting with right now? All of these different states that we try to measure and predict in real time, we ultimately then want to build an intelligent system that might be able to adapt to you in real time. You know, if you are overloaded, perhaps the interface can adapt and alleviate some of your task load for you, for example. So that's kind of a snapshot of what we do. So a lot of our work uses a relatively new non-invasive brain measurement device called functional near-infrared spectroscopy, which is an FNIRS for short. So when you hear us saying FNIRS, that's the device. It's a really great device for the field of human-computer interaction because it's taking information. It actually measures information about the blood flow in your brain, which is very similar to what an FMRI scanner can give you. And if anyone has ever been inside of an FMRI magnet, it's really loud, it's really constrictive, and for the most part, you can't move. You're supposed to stay really, really still. And so there's a lot of valuable information about the brain that we get from an fMRI, but we're certainly not getting it in naturalistic settings, right? When someone's working with a robot or driving, an autonomous vehicle. And so the nice thing about this relatively new device, which was actually just developed in the 1990s, it was first developed. The nice thing is that we can get these kind of quality brain measurements of very specific brain regions and the activation in those regions, but we can do it outside the fMRI scanner. And the way the device works is it just basically you have these light sources that are placed on your head, and it puts near infrared light at 2 different wavelengths, gets pulsed into your head, and the light actually it gets reflected back out of your head, and we have these powerful light detectors that pick up the light that comes back out of your head. And based on that information, we can tell a whole bunch about the kind of blood flow in your brain, which relates to your brain activity. So it's a really fun device, and that's we actually just got new equipment, about almost $500,000 of brand new cutting edge FNIRS devices that are completely wireless and really cool. So you'll see more of those later. And just quickly a comparison. So here you've got your fMRI scanner in the middle. On the right side, we have several different FNIRS devices. So this is one of the devices we've used in the past. But so on the right side, you see someone wearing FNIRS, and then on the left, you see more of a traditional, what's called EEG. I don't know if an electroencephalograph, for those who have ever heard of it. But anyways, they're different. We do a lot of work with EEG as well in our lab, and they actually measure complementary information. So if I start clapping really quickly, the neurons immediately fire in your brain, and that's what the EEG picks up. It's actually the electrical potentials of the neurons firing. And what happens is if I start clapping and then you start to pay attention to my clapping, what happens is the blood flow in your brain is actually kind of slower, and it's like, oh, there sounds like something's going on, and the neurons that are firing, which the EEG is picking that up, the oxygenated blood slowly goes to that area because it knows that the neurons need, sorry, that's my dog, that the neurons need energy. So anyway, so FNIRS gets the slower blood flow to that region, which is also what fMRI picks up. But the devices are complementary, and so a lot of times we actually have EEG embedded within our FMRI setups. So this is just a fun little sampling to show you guys just a picture of, we work with a lot of neuroscientists, a lot of cognitive scientists, and the brain is absolutely an incredible organ. And this is just to give you an idea of kind of some of the different areas that we measure depending on the study. So for example, one study that Trevor may talk about, we're looking at mental workload, which a lot of that happens in the front of your brain. So we might place some sensors here, but we're also trying to look at if someone is visually overloaded. So for example, if they're wearing augmented reality and they're doing some sort of search and rescue mission, if you're visually overloaded, you may be able to pick that up in your occipital cortex, which is in the back of your head. So when we configure our devices, we might want to measure, we'll measure a bit in the front and then a bit in the back. But and there's a whole bunch of interesting social regions that are related to things like empathy and whether or not you're trusting someone and risk taking. And so depending on the study, we work with neuroscientists and we kind of figure out the best places to measure with our device. But it's fun and it's very interdisciplinary. And at that, I will mute myself and tell my dog to be quiet, and Trevor can talk. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thanks for that, Leanne. So I'm Trevor. I'm a second-year PhD student in the computer science program in Leanne's lab. I had previously worked with Leanne back in upstate New York and have since moved out here. I'm going to talk a little bit just about a study I'm working on, as well as entering the CS program, having no background in CS really, or at least formal background. So my undergraduate background was actually primarily in philosophy with a bit of neuroscience, actually more from a bio perspective. A little bit about myself. I'm very bad at pool, which I suppose hasn't mattered for about the last 6 to 9 months. But I'm also not very good at giving presentations about myself. So I figure we will move on from here. If we could hit the next slide, Leanne. So the current project that I find myself working on. I always like to preface everything with a why the research matters. So the current project I'm working on is looking at the neural correlates and attempting to model different levels of what we'll call load on certain perceptual or attentional modalities, right? The primary ones that we're focused on are visual attention, auditory attention, and working memory. And what we're trying to sort of measure is when these systems are kind of at their limits or overloaded, right? When I'm processing too much visual information, when I'm processing too much auditory information, when I need to keep track of so many disparate things that my working memory becomes overloaded and is no longer functioning, right? And so, why do we want to look at these points of failure in human cognition? And I kind of bring it back, and I'm probably dating myself a little bit. I call it the Clippy Navi problem, which is essentially, if you remember Word from the 90s or the 1996 video game Ocarina of Time, you have these assistants, these electronic assistants that are incredibly unintuitive, that will yell at you all the time, that will make you very frustrated, and don't offer very much in the way of help. So the overarching goal of this project is to make our autonomous systems or our autonomous agents that we interact with a bit more helpful than Clippy or Navi. And to do this, the idea is that if we can build a model of when people are overloaded in some certain capacity, that system might be able to either offload some of the tasks that a human is using or present new information to the user in a way that is more conducive to the situation they're in, right? If someone is visually overloaded and can't take more visual information in, it's probably not a good idea to display the further information in text on the screen for the person to view. So in order to do that, Leanne, if you could click to the next slide. We sort of developed working with another lab, a sorting task paradigm, where we look at visual attention, auditory attention, and working memory load. And we can kind of, I call it manipulate levers, although we ended up more with switches, where we say, in this condition, the visual